People wonder where they should travel right now. Latin America and Southeast Asia are the two most popular regions in the world today. Today we're going to talk about the COVID restrictions, visa situation, dating, internet, and safety in these places. Let's start with the most important talking point of all, COVID restrictions. Now, if you have been following the news, if you have been reading on updates, you are probably well aware of how things evolved over the past 18 months. Let's start out with Latin America, a place that I'd consider as fairly open, and it's been fairly open since the beginning of the pandemic. There has been countries like Argentina, Chile that have been closed up until recently. Now Argentina and Chile are opening up again. However, Latin America for the most part has been really open. If we take a look at Mexico, Colombia, Costa Rica, the Dominican Republic, these places have been so open that more travelers, more tourists than ever visited Latin America during the past 18 months. So if you want to go to Latin America right now, if you want to travel to any of the extremely open countries that I mentioned before, you don't need anything to enter the country. You don't need a negative PCR test, no quarantine required. You don't need to do any testing upon arrival in the country. It's like you travel as if the pandemic never happened. It's a phenomenal feeling. It's the type of freedom that is unheard of in today's world. However, it is still possible in many countries in Latin America. So this is a definite plus that you get to experience when you travel to the Americas. Having a look at Southeast Asia, it's a very different ball game in Southeast Asia because most countries are still closed. You cannot get in, not as a tourist, not as a business traveler. Only citizens, residents, and special long-term pass holders are being admitted into most Southeast Asian countries right now. However, some countries like Thailand, Indonesia, and Singapore have opened their borders to international tourists again. This is great news for the Asia lovers under you guys. This is fantastic news because a lot of people, they don't want to change, they don't want to adjust, they don't want to try anything new. So for you guys, going to Southeast Asia is the only option, and it's probably very difficult to change your minds. If we take a look at Thailand, it is very complicated to enter the country right now. You need to be double vaxxed with one of the approved vaccinations. This is the first requirement. The second requirement is that you depart from one of the eligible countries. So you cannot depart from the Republic of Congo. It doesn't work. You have to depart from any of the countries that Thailand considers as COVID-free. And it considers countries as COVID-free that had very few incidents of COVID. So very few COVID cases, very few deaths, very few hospitalizations. But this is not enough, right? You also need to get a negative PCR test done. You need to have travel insurance, and you need to spend the first day, the first night at a government-approved hotel. Plus, you need to do further testing, right? You need to get tested again upon arrival in Thailand. So despite of you being fully vaccinated, despite of you bringing a negative PCR test, having travel insurance, doing all these extra things that were not needed before, you still need to spend at least one day in a government-approved hotel. This is a lot to take for a lot of people, especially if you only travel for like a couple of weeks. I guess if you live in Thailand, you can probably justify it. However, for those under us who are leisure travelers, this is a tough pill to swallow. Having a look at Indonesia, especially Bali, Indonesia, you can get a one-year business visa for Bali, Indonesia right now. But in order to enter the country, it is not an easy process. You need to be fully vaccinated. Negative PCR test is required, plus a couple of days in a government-approved hotel. Plus, you need to get tested again. And, whatever happens then, if you test positive, you may need to spend even more days in the government-approved quarantine hotel. Singapore is opening up to fully vaccinated travelers without quarantine. This is good news. So Singapore is right now really pretty much the only country that makes it somewhat easy to get in. But if you want to travel then from Singapore to Thailand, so it's a very complicated situation in Asia right now. Whereas in Latin America, it's super easy for you to get in. It's super easy to travel within the continent. Like intercontinental travel freedom is not as restricted as it is in Asia right now. How about the visa options, residence programs, and citizenship programs available? So taking a look at Mexico, you can travel to Mexico as a tourist and stay for up to 180 days in the country. This is phenomenal. You know, if you want to explore the country, you don't want to get a long-term visa, you can go to Mexico and spend up to 6 months there. It's just a great way to try out the country, to taste it, to see what it's like before you commit any more time, you know, running to the embassy to apply for a long-term visa and spending any money on citizenship and residence programs. So Mexico is really, really open. Colombia, another place. You can go to Colombia on a 90-day tourist visa, you know, if you are on the list of eligible countries, of course. And once you're in Colombia, you're eligible to apply for an extension, okay? Before the 90 days are up, make sure you file your petition online and you get another 90 days. So you get a total of 180 days in Colombia. Costa Rica, not a great place. You also get 90 days in the country. And you know, the visa program in these countries hasn't really changed since the beginning of the pandemic. Asia, Southeast Asia, on the other hand, it's a very different ball game. You cannot go to the Philippines right now. It's completely closed to international tourists. You cannot get in only if you're a citizen, resident, or long-term pass holders. Otherwise, you're out. You cannot go there. Vietnam, the same thing. Only citizens, long-term pass holders, and residents are allowed to enter under very strict entry requirements. Thailand is open to tourism, but again, it's very complicated to go there. And in general, I would say getting a residence, getting citizenship in Southeast Asia is so much tougher than it is in Latin America. There's a lot of countries where it's close to impossible, like Vietnam and Thailand. And the reason why it's impossible in Vietnam is because they don't allow dual citizenship. Cambodia is the only country that allows dual citizenship. It's a bit easier in the Philippines. There is a path to citizenship in Thailand. Malaysia, not really an option. Singapore, extremely difficult to become a citizen. Latin America is a fantastic place if you want to get your residency, if you want to get a second residency, if you want to get another citizenship, because in Latin America, in many cases, you proving a stable income, you know, from a pension or something, of course, assuming you already, you know, 50, 60 plus, otherwise, you know, this may not be an option if there's an age requirement. However, a place like Mexico allows you to get temporary residence by just showing a minimum account balance of $25,800 over the course of 6 to 8 months. Very liberal indeed. Other places like Colombia also offer residence programs, but it does take a sizable investment in real estate to make it happen. Panama just recently changed the friendly nations visa, adjusted it a lot. You can no longer become a resident by just depositing $5,000 in a local bank account and starting a company. This option no longer exists. You can only become a resident now by purchasing real estate, or if you have a work permit, you can convert that into a residence permit. The Dominican Republic has a residence program available, citizenship through investment as well. Another country in Latin America that is great. Okay, if you want to get residency the easy way, the very easy way, you can try Paraguay. Paraguay has pretty much the same program that Panama had, just easier. It's easier in Paraguay. Just again, $5,000. That's all you need to deposit into a local bank account and you get residency just like that. It's really easy. So if we take a look at Latin America and Southeast Asia, when it comes to residence permits and citizenships, Latin America definitely has the upper hand. Safety is another important factor. In fact, it is so important that many people are a little bit afraid to go to Latin America because, you know, they're part of all these Facebook groups and they read all these comments about people talking how they got robbed, how they've been stabbed, you know, all these crazy things have been happening to people in Latin America that they think, well, I'd rather wait for Asia to open up because I don't want anything like this to happen to me. Well, this is totally understandable. You need to understand that these things are kind of preventable. Like, you can prevent it by taking precautions. You cannot live in very dangerous places, not in very dangerous neighborhoods. You can watch where you go, when you go there. There is a lot of precautions that you can take that will avoid that you will ever have to deal with any of these serious crimes, that these serious crimes will ever happen to you. But it definitely needs to be said, because every place has pros and cons, and Latin America is no exception. If you want to live in Latin America, the crime is definitely there, and it's more obvious. It's more common than it is in Southeast Asia. Especially violent crime is more common in Latin America than it is in Southeast Asia. And this is undeniable. If you look at the statistics, it is just there. And you have to accept it. However, like I said, by taking certain precautions, you can avoid it for the most part or altogether. I shouldn't say for the most part, because that sounds scary, but you can definitely eliminate it, by taking precautions, not going to certain places, not living in certain places that are really dangerous. But I've spent so much time in Southeast Asia and nothing violent ever happened to me. The worst thing that ever happened to me is that somebody broke into my house, and that was really my fault, because I had a housekeeper that I knew I couldn't trust, and he had our keys, and it was just an avoidable moment which happened, and it was sad. However, what can you do about it? It's an experience, you learn from it. But knock on wood, nothing really bad, nothing really tragic happened to me during my time in Southeast Asia. How about internet? Internet is something that a lot of people are concerned, especially the digital nomads under you guys, because you want to go to a place with strong, reliable, solid internet. And the thing is that in Latin America, the capitals have great internet, the bigger cities usually have good internet, but the very remote locations, I know there's many locations, areas in the Dominican Republic that have poor internet, and working there, especially if you need to do calls, can be a little bit difficult, and it can harm your business, I would even say. However, you can avoid that by just living in the bigger cities, and it's pretty much the same on most islands. You're gonna have problems getting a good, solid, fast internet connection. That is just the name of the game. But generally speaking, Latin America has good internet. Ecuador has some problems, but Mexico, Colombia, Argentina, Chile, these places have all really good internet. The only places that typically don't have good internet are the islands, like I said. Now, Southeast Asia, on the other hand, it's kind of comparable. If you live in Ho Chi Minh City, Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, Taiwan, these places have great internet. Malaysia also, for the most part, really, really good internet. You're never gonna have a problem, right? However, the Philippines has pretty bad internet, and I can tell you that I've spent a good amount of time in the Philippines in different places, and it's always been challenging to get a good internet connection. I'll never forget when I was on calls, and all of a sudden the call would just drop in the middle of the conversation, and that was not good for my business back then. Was not good for my business, but I learned from it, and I moved somewhere with better internet. Cambodia, the internet there is also not the best. The capital, Phnom Penh, maybe somewhat okay. But if you live in the southern part, definitely challenging. Thailand, the cities, Bangkok, Chiang Mai, Pattaya, they have all good internet. On the smaller islands, probably gonna be a problem again. Last but not least, we have dating. Dating is a very important component for all the male digital nomads that are listening to this video right now, because you guys are wondering, where can I go to have the best dating options available? It doesn't matter how old you are. If you are in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, we all need it, we all want it. And there are some places that have really good dating, and there's some places that have not so good dating. And that holds even true for developing places like Southeast Asia and Latin America. One of the most important components that is not often discussed is language barrier. The cultural barrier, you always have that. However, language barrier is something that isn't really discussed, but it is an important factor, I think. Having a look at Asia again, in the Philippines, language barrier is not that big of a deal, right? In the Philippines, most Filipinos speak really good English, compared to other countries in the region, right? So you dating one, not gonna be a big deal. You're gonna get by with just English. You don't need to learn the local language. Vietnam, a little bit more difficult. In Ho Chi Minh City, you're probably going to find some women that speak English, but some of them don't. It really depends. Thailand, definitely more challenging. Malaysia, I would say generally speaking, most people in Malaysia speak some English, and so it won't be too difficult for you to find some women that will be able to communicate with you in English. You don't need to learn Chinese, not Malay, not whatever, nothing like that. Singapore, everyone in Singapore speaks English, no problem, right? Cambodia, again, a little bit more difficult. Latin America is really a different beast. There are some Latinas that speak English, but you have to put yourself in their shoes, right? Spanish is a widely spoken language, and for the most part, Spanish people don't speak English because they believe that everyone coming to their country needs to speak their language, which does make sense, I guess. Looking at it from a dating perspective, you're gonna find women that speak some English, but most of them are reluctant to speak English because, you know, it's not their native language. I mean, it's very much the same as in Asia, it's just that Spanish is just more popular. You know, you learn it in school. It's not like some odd language, you know, like Vietnamese or Filipino that you don't learn in a Western school. So if you want to have better dating success in Latin America, I'd highly recommend for you to learn some Spanish because it's going to go a long way. Even just knowing how to say hi, even just knowing how to introduce yourself, knowing how to order food at a restaurant is going to go a long way. But there's a lot of people from the West that are coming to Latin America that don't think that speaking English is important. And when they get there, they really get to know the truth that it is more important than they thought. So I definitely recommend that you put in at least some effort. You don't need to become fluent and perfect and all, no, but just learn some, you know. Your Spanish girl is gonna appreciate it. Where would you rather live, Latin America or Southeast Asia? Where are you located in the world right now? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and visas several times a week. Before I let you go, I got 2 recommendations for you. Recommendation 1, I shot a video on the best places where you can live on as little as $1,000 a month. If you want to watch this video, click on the link right here. Recommendation 2, I shot another video on the best countries for single guys. This is a great continuation from this video, so if you want to find out what these places are, click on the link right here. Thank you for watching.